So I'm on the BJJ Fanatics website, and I see 3 new videos by some guy named Thomas Radzinski. You familiar with that guy at all?
Nope, absolutely not.
No? Well, he's got some good stuff. 3 brand new videos. They're getting amazing reviews, which is good to see as well. But you got to tell us about them real quick?
Yeah, I had, you guys already know, but I had opportunity to go to Boston, shoot 3 more instructionals, 1 on butterfly hook, complete guide for butterfly hook, 2 wrap, lapel, and submit them, and 3 we have taking the back. It's particularly designed for guys for over 40 because there's no climbing involved. All the back takes are on the ground. Very, very full and effective system. So dip into it. I'm really hoping that this is going to help your jiu-jitsu and really take it to the next level.
BJJfanatics.com. Just search ROZDZ. We have all had that situation where after class is when we want to ask a question. And Thomas, a lot of those questions you've already answered, right, at Ask a Black Belt.
Yeah, it's another podcast that I'm running. It's on podcast, all podcast platforms, plus on YouTube. You can find it anywhere. Just search for my name. Search for Ask a Black Belt. At this point, over 100 episodes, different questions, jiu-jitsu, life-related, but something that everybody comes across, and often these questions sink in our mind, but we don't ask for whatever reason. So if that benefits you, go there, listen. It actually might help your jiu-jitsu, might help your life as well. And if you have any questions, find me on Instagram and drop me a line. I'll be happy to answer your question and mention your name during the episode.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
And we are live.
Here we go.
Once again.
Yep.
Here we go. Do you know that you say "here we go" every single time?
Yeah. Did you know you say "and we are live" every time?
Yeah, I do it intentionally.
Yeah, so do I.
Oh, okay.
I at some point I realized I was like it wasn't a thought out. It was just something that started happening, and
Really?
at some point I was like, "Oh, geez, I do that every time. I might as well keep doing it every time." So,
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
there you go. You got
I
your own
noticed at
thing.
some point.
You got your own thing going.
not the only thing.
All right. Before we start talking about the episode and what we really got to talk about, once again, we are looking for your feedback. We are looking for your thoughts. We want to know which episode you like the most. Go to our website, therawradio.com. Cast your vote on the best episode. We are drawing awesome Raw Radio original T-shirt and a subscription to Raw TV. So all that is going to be for some lucky people who are willing to share their thoughts, their feedback. The answers are flowing in at this point, right? So the group is growing, and then we want to know your thoughts. So as you're listening to this, pull up your phone right now, as long as you're not driving, and then go to our website, therawradio.com. You'll see a big button, take a vote. And share your thoughts. We'll read them online, and then obviously, you can get some cool stuff that we are giving away, the T-shirt and the subscription. So
and those are some amazing prizes, right? I mean, the T-shirt's cool, but you're also going to learn some more jiu-jitsu.
Well, yeah, and at this point, there was like freaking thousands of you out there. So I don't know who wouldn't want it. So it is what it is, right? So. Just another opportunity to engage. And honestly, I would love to hear the feedback. Like, I really would love to know which ones, which episode are your favorites. Like, we have our favorites, but I'm curious what you like, and then obviously, we can continue catering
it's
towards
funny.
that,
People
right?
like things for different reasons too. It's like, oh, this one was funny. This one,
Right.
I learned a lot. I have something similar happened to me that happened to that guest, stuff like that.
Well, I think what's cool about this podcast in general, that and we've said this many times, I've said this many times, we kind of started it for selfish reasons. We started to stay busy during pandemic and to, just continue being engaged in the jiu-jitsu community. But, more we do it, it becomes extremely visible that we are impacting people by these simple conversations with some of the other personalities in jiu-jitsu. People are telling us that this was cool. I like to hearing this. This really made an impact on me. This made me motivate myself. This allowed me to, or helped me with certain aspects of my life or jiu-jitsu. So, we're trying to bring this all together. I would love to hear feedback. So again, go to rawradio.com. The Raw Radio.
The Roll Radio. Yeah, because there's an old-timey radio station that's Roll Radio as well.
Don't go there. There was no vote there. No, go to the.
And you won't learn anything about jiu-jitsu there.
Yeah, go to therawradio.com and then cast your vote and then share your thoughts, and then the prizes might be coming your way.
Cool. What are we supposed to be talking about?
Shaolin. Today? Well,
yeah.
Keep it simple.
Oh,
keep it simple.
Yeah, like we didn't with that promo. It's funny. So as you were talking, I'm scrolling.
Yeah.
And not keeping it simple, right? Not at all. All right, so I'm trying to multitask, do two things at once. But I think how it came up for me, keeping it simple, is we just have this constant barrage of things coming at us all times, right? Whether it's work or social media or what have you, or at the same time. And in jiu-jitsu, all these things are coming at you all the time too. And rather than trying to absorb it all, I think you need to really just like narrow focus, make that, and recognize that most of what you're seeing throughout the day is a distraction, and can even become an obstacle. You think you're gathering information, but you're not. You're just really distracting you.
Well, distraction is an obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Not allowing you to focus, right? And so let me start, because I just recently had a conversation about multitasking. And I was actually recently, a couple months back, I was actually reading a book about, human brains and how we operate and all the other stuff, the geeky stuff that I read. But it was interesting to the thought, and I'm curious what you think about this. Can we multitask as humans?
Yes. But I don't know if you know who Richard Roper is. He's a movie critic and a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was him, I'm paraphrasing, who said multitasking is the art of doing two things at once poorly.
Well, so this is the interesting part, right? Because the book that, and I don't remember the title, but the book that I was reading was essentially saying that human brain is incapable of multitasking. There's no such thing as doing two things at the same time.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not two things at the same time. You're switching between two things.
Yeah.
Right. Which by itself, as a two actions running and switching between them, you are doing two actions less efficiently than if you designated, let's just say, 10 minutes for one action and then back it up with another 10 minutes with another action.
Yeah.
And they were showing some studies that showing, proving the fact that it will take you even up to 2-3 times longer to those two things switching between, quote unquote, multitasking,
right,
versus you devoting X amount of time hyper focusing and then doing the second task that you're supposed to do. That's why, and I had this conversation with somebody else, and they were like, yeah, I mean, you're right. It's like not really multitasking.
You think you're being efficient, but you're
really not.
Right. And you may be able to finish those two tasks in a shorter amount of time, but you probably have a better result with each if you did them individually.
Correct.
Right. So, maybe there's a time for it when whatever you're doing isn't that important and you just need to hammer something out.
Yeah.
But I think when it's something that is important or that is complex, then you need to concentrate just on that one thing. And, we always want to bring it back to jiu-jitsu. The way I look at it under this topic is you're trying to develop some sort of style, some sort of game, better than a style, right? A game. And you go into it with all the best intentions. And then fairly early on, you're now looking at a different position. You're now looking at different techniques. Yeah. Oh, but I could still incorporate it into my original plan. And you start getting further and further away from that original decision that you had. And then the next thing you know, like we always talk about, oh, that position's not for me. That technique isn't, doesn't fit my body style. Well, I'm really making a lot of noise. You didn't really put in you didn't keep it simple to that one thing right? And you let all these other distractions in, and sort of like multitasking. Now that first original thing isn't being done efficiently. It's not being done well. It's, you know, and I think it happens a lot in jiu-jitsu. It happens a ton.
Well, I think it not only happens in jiu-jitsu, but in our life. And
Sure.
the distraction factor, I feel it's so high today
Mm-hmm.
in today's society in general that it is almost, I mean, it's almost to a ridiculous point in my, like, you know, I don't want to come off really strong about this, but it's anything from the social media to the fact of you can't even have at times you can't even have a conversation. And I'm guilty of this as charged. Like sometimes you can't even have a conversation without having a phone in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Like I catch myself with this.
Sure.
Like, and like it's one of the points of struggle for me. Is like when I'm talking to you, I want your undivided attention. Like otherwise, I feel like you're not hearing me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we can't even converse for 5 minutes without you looking at the phone. What could be so possibly important? You know what I mean? But even if we bring this back to jiu-jitsu, it's a similar thing. I'm working on guard retention. You know, so why are you focusing on, I don't know, other things? Like, and it's a very fine line in jiu-jitsu because we are trying to develop a game. We're trying to develop a system. We're trying to get better at several different things. But by quote unquote multitasking, the question is, are we really getting good at those things?
Right. And
right? Or are we just dipping into them?
Right. And I don't think it's even as it's not even getting good at them. It's progressing in any way at them,
Mm-hmm.
because you're constantly distracted. You know, and even when you're on the mat, it's hard to say to your training partner, "Hey, I'm only doing this."
Yeah.
Right. So if you pass my guard, we need to go back. If I sweep you, we need to go back. If, you know, and to do that even for a short 5-minute round is really difficult.
Yeah. Well, even ask yourself, like you as a listening to us, right? Like ask yourself this. If you're working on guard retention and that's your focus, hypothetically, how many times have you found yourself in a spot where your training partner comes up to you and say, let me show you this cool thing I saw.
Yeah.
And the next roll, you're trying to implement this cool thing that your partner told you instead of doing what you were working on originally, right? That's kind of the point of distraction that I'm talking about.
Yeah,
like
I feel
you're pivoting 180 degrees in a different direction versus staying in almost a selfish way, working on your own improvement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you know, there's got to be give and take in jiu-jitsu. So at some point during the hour and a half, you have to give back as well. But I think, you know, you need to take time for whatever you're working on. And you need to realize that other people's input in the 5 minutes doesn't matter. I don't need to know it now, because if you start dissecting what we're doing in this moment, all that work I'm trying to do goes out the window. It's over. Because you're naturally going to start moving on to something else at that point. You know, I would do it this way. Well, I don't care unless I asked you the question. It doesn't matter because I have to work on this, and and it might not be perfect yet, and it might be ugly, and it might be sloppy. But the only way it's going to get better is if I keep working on it.
Mm-hmm.
If you give me a different way to do it, or I would do this instead in this position, well, then what I'm working on, it doesn't matter anymore. You know, why did I even try it?
Yeah.
You know, and then all that other stuff that just keeps coming in. You got, you know, I think how many people can just sit quietly in a room for just 10, 15 minutes? No TV, no computer, no phone, not even a book. Just go sit down and see how torturous that could be.
I can't.
But that, in my outlook on life and the way I think about things, that is something to achieve. That is, you know, because if you can do that, if you can free yourself up enough to do that, I think that you will realize what's a distraction, what's not important when you're not in that room, you know, when there's all these other things going on, and you'll be able to read a book at your kids' soccer game. That's a bad example because you should be watching them and supporting them. But
you are supporting them by reading a book.
Instead of like, why do you pay attention? But I think you know what I'm trying to get at is like you could be on a, if you take the bus or you take the train, what do we start doing? We bring a book. We've got our headphones. We're looking at our cell phone. We're doing all these things. Instead of, you should be able to find that one thing that you could do with all those distractions around you and do that well. And I think that's super, super hard to do nowadays.
Well, the discipline
Yeah.
of doing that, it's very difficult, but too, oftentimes, especially in today's world, the distraction factors that surround us really make it very difficult, right? So like you look at that decade or 2 or 3 decades ago, previous generation, their distraction factors were by far smaller, right? The technology didn't exist at that point, right? If you want to, like, I remember, that's not that like date myself or anything, but let's listen, like I remember going to my grandfather's farm and I had to be below 10. I had to be below, probably my early days, but when he wanted to make a phone call, he had one of those phones with a little freaking turn dial on the side, and he called.
He had to crank it?
Yeah, he had to crank it.
We're not talking a rotary phone.
No. Yeah, crank it, and he picked it up, and it dialed the central whatever phone office, and then he told him. And then he told him a phone number, and they called him. Like, and granted, it was in the middle of the farm, in the middle of nowhere in Poland, but like, the distraction factor there was none, like minimal to none. Like all you had is a farm, your animals, and that's all you did. You know what I mean?
You were able to accomplish with the tasks.
Right, absolutely. Right. Well, now today we have this beautiful thing known as a technology, and we have access to the videos and phones and everything is done for us. And like I know I wouldn't be able to live without my phone. Like my phone is my life, from schedule to communication to everything. But also I'm recognizing that the distraction factor that phone gives me is ridiculous, But
I also think that phone gives you. See, what do you think is the distraction? The Facebook, the Instagram, the availability to scroll, or the fact that you have this device now that you think makes your life easier because you could put all those things in here to keep you on track. Mm-hmm. But how many of those things do you actually need to be on track of? Well, and if you could shed some of that stuff, you would be able to progress in those really important things. I think this laptop makes your life easier. Well, it also makes me bring my work home with me.
Yes.
Right. So, and now I'm doing work at home, but I'm doing it poorly because I have all those distractions at home, which could actually be the things I'm supposed to be focusing on.
Yeah.
You look at like how kids are growing up now, where it's, how can we expect our children to sit down with a printed sheet from their teacher and just focus on that and do that homework when their day is full of flashing lights, constant from the time they wake up, all these distractions, whether it's, if they're little, it's all the stuff, it's the TV, it's the videos, and then it's their toys. And it's just this constant barrage of in your face. How are you ever supposed to be able to work efficiently on one thing?
Well, and that's the hard part, right? Because, if we take this, now we're going to stretch this out and it's a completely different thing, but this is part of the simplicity, right? It's not that our phones make our life easier. I think they make it more, they simplify things, right? So making a phone call is easy. Well, it's simple. Right? It doesn't make my life easier, but it's simpler, right? Managing my calendar, it's simpler now, right? It's more convenient. Convenient is the word I'm looking for, right? It's not that it really makes my life easy. It's the same thing in my mind. It's more convenient, and the convenience is what we gravitate towards.
Right, but then I think we because it's convenient, we start really packing stuff in there.
Correct.
Instead of really living what would be a simple.
And this is what Shaolin was talking about. It used to be when you go to the gym and you train for 2-3 hours. Now it's like, classes up. 1 60-minute class is up. I got to go. I got to go because I got other things to do. And this is the price that we pay for the technology that we have part of our lives, you know. And I don't think we can avoid it. I don't think we can avoid it.
I think we could. I think we
can manage it.
We've told ourselves that it's a necessity, and I don't think it is. Now you need some of it in order to survive in this world, to grow a business in this world, to achieve. You need some of it, but I think that we're being programmed constantly to need more of it in order to keep moving forward. And I think that's kind of a lie.
No, this would be interesting. I think we're going to go way deeper into this than we intended, but can we? That's the question. So like, can you get rid of your phone?
Mm-hmm.
Can you get rid of your phone?
Sure. Now, can I get rid of my phone and continue to have the job that I have? Maybe not, but maybe the question shouldn't be, I have to have this phone to have this job. Maybe the question should be, maybe I don't need this job. If I really want to keep it simple.
I mean, true.
Right?
That is a good point.
You know, and if that's the life, you know, I look at somebody like John Will or Nick Guglio, two fairly recent guests on this show.
Yeah.
Nick couldn't pack up all his shit and live in Europe for 3 years without technology. However, he couldn't have packed up all his stuff and lived abroad for 3 years if he was a slave to that technology, if he was always in his phone, if he was always, you know. No, John Will's an older gentleman who isn't into technology much at all and has several successful academies and is traveling the world, and by the little hints he's dropped here and there, makes a shit ton of money.
Well,
and he did it without posting videos to Instagram. He did it without, you know, huge online platforms. He did it without packing his life so full of having to do these things. He actually just went out and did a few things very, very well, which paid off for him in the long run. I don't know. It's very complicated.
It is.
You know,
it is a complicated topic, and I think, you know, it is a, you know, the interesting part for me personally is like, can we make these exceptions to disconnect while the rest of the world is refusing to do that? Because this is not everybody disconnecting. This is just me disconnecting, right? And what consequence does that have on everybody? Well, what consequence does that have on me in the big picture that's surrounding me? Because our culture is not going in that direction. We're not disconnecting. We are more connected than we've ever been.
Yeah, and I often wonder if the pendulum is ever going to swing back. Like,
it's already.
When is it going to be too much?
Well, it already has. People getting off Facebook. People are getting off social media. People are disconnecting because the addiction factor to media is so high right now. The depression is so high.
Will it ever be enough people where it makes a dent?
I don't know. That we won't know, and our kids might not know because this might take a very long time to achieve. But
all right.
Anyhow, simplify. Yeah, simplify your jiu-jitsu. Make it simple.
All right. Keep it simple, stupid.
I'll see you later.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.